Plants worldwide provide tens of billions of tons of wood and fiber that shelter us and clothe us and provide paper. So let's talk about some important plant materials, because that will help us understand some important differences between animals and plants, as well as the differences between woody plants such as trees and shrubs, and non-woody plants such as grasses, ferns, and other species we call herbs or herbaceous. First, let's delve into wood. Wood timber is produced by many species of plants, including the broadleaf trees we call hardwoods, such as oak, ash, and maple, and needle-leaved, softwoods, or conifers, such as pine, spruce, and cedar. We'll go into more detail about the differences between conifers and hardwoods in future lessons. But what is wood? Wood is made up of plant cells. Strong plant cells, like this one illustrated on the right, differ from our comparatively weeny animal cells, like the one on the left, in having tough cell walls. Animal cells have membranes, but not walls. All plant cells are made up of three primary compounds that give them their tough yet flexible character: cellulose, which is the most abundant organic compound on Earth, hemicellulose, and lignin. Remember all those sugars produced by plant photosynthesis? String all those glucose molecules together into a chain, or polymer, and you get cellulose. Think celery, those strings of tough tissue that sometimes get stuck in your teeth, and you'll get a good sense of the flexibility and toughness of cellulose. The tissues of woody plants are more rigid than other plants because their cell walls consist of higher amounts of lignin, which is essentially the glue that binds all the cellulose together. Look at a tree in cross-section, like you might see on a tree stump, and you'll see two kinds of wood. Here's a cross-section of a fir tree. The center of the trunk is a harder, dead part of the tree called the heartwood, in which the tubes, called xylem, that pipe water and nutrients up from its roots to its leaves, have blocked up and stopped working. Surrounding the heartwood, there's a moist living layer called sapwood, packed with functioning xylem tubes. Around the outer edge of the sapwood and the trunk is a thin active layer called the cambium, where the tree is growing outward by a little bit each year. In the spring and summer, when the tree is growing vigorously, the cambium expands rapidly, putting on layers of large cells with thin cell walls. In the late summer, tree growth slows down, and the new cambium cells the tree produces are smaller and denser, with thick cell walls. So each year, you get alternating concentric areas of contrasting cells, which are called growth rings. In this cross-section of the trunk, you'll see the annual rings, one new one added each year. Count the number of rings you see, and you'll get the age of the tree. Growth rates vary from year to year, too, so it's possible to go back in time to see which years were good for the tree, and in which years it grew more slowly. Mature woody plants also have an outermost protective layer that we call bark. The outer bark is mostly dead tissue, and it's produced by a type of cambium called cork. The dead cells contain a fatty substance called suberin, which makes them impermeable to water and also gives the tree a lot of strength. The features of the bark, like its color, texture, and thickness, change as the tree ages. The bark of an older tree can look very different from the bark of a younger one. You can tell many common tree species apart by looking carefully at the characteristic bark they produce, all year round. Do any of these barks of common trees look familiar to you? Cut vertically through a tree trunk, and you'll see lines inside running parallel to the trunk. These are formed by the xylem tubes and form the inner structure of the wood, giving it its unique grain. The beautiful patterns of that grain are hugely valued by woodworkers. The vessels also give the wood great strength against compression so that they can bear heavy loads. That's why vertical timbers can be used to frame houses and other buildings. Now let's look at the three major categories of woody plants that we see on the New England landscape: trees, shrubs, and woody vines, also called lianas. Trees are our tallest woody plants. New England species can reach 150 feet or more tall. That's tiny me, for scale, with a huge red oak in Massachusetts. Trees typically have one main stem, or trunk. Sometimes if the young trunk is damaged by insects or storms, the tree will grow a few replacements, or stump sprouts, so it can fool you. But usually one of those new trunks is larger and taller than the others. It is called a leader. Shrubs are generally smaller than mature trees, usually only reaching about 20 to 30 feet in height, max. Of course, young trees, or saplings, can start out smaller than your average shrub, so look at the growth form of the plant. Shrubs have several stems that usually originate from the base of the plant, whereas trees have that one main trunk. Lianas have a vine-like growth form. That is, they climb on other vegetation or structures to boost their leaves up into the canopy to get sunlight. Some of the most common examples of lianas in our region are wild grapes, like the one shown here, Virginia creeper, and the invasive oriental bittersweet. Probably our most important liana to learn right off the bat is poison ivy. Beware! It can look like a shrub in its young years, but eventually it can grow into a large liana. Its leaves come in sets of 3 and are usually shiny, vibrant to dark green, turning bright red in the fall. The liana's stem has lots of hairs that it uses to attach itself to a climbing surface. Don't touch the stem at any time. It's poisonous even in winter. Okay, so now we have a sense of what a woody plant is made of. So what's an herbaceous plant? Well, it doesn't produce wood, of course, and it's usually not as tough as a woody plant. You can try the squeeze test yourself. Try squeezing the twig or branch of a tree or shrub like the one on the left. No give. But if you squeeze the stem of an herbaceous plant, like this fern on the right, see the arrow where it's broken? The stem eventually, and usually pretty easily, gives way. In our region, too, many herbaceous plants die back all the way to the ground. Exceptions are evergreen herbaceous plants, like this Christmas fern on the left, or partridgeberry on the right, which keep their shape and are actually photosynthesizing with their deep evergreen leaves all year long. Now, we all know how useful woody plants are, but herbaceous plants also give us essential products. Everything from medicines, such as digitalis, the source of critical heart medication, poppy, the source of many painkillers, and golden seal, a native plant of the forest of the eastern U.S., which is used to treat cold symptoms, digestive discomfort, and other maladies, but which can be over-harvested in parts of its range due to its usefulness. And if you're wearing cotton while viewing this, you can thank a plant. Hey, even if you're wearing wool. Okay, wool doesn't come from plants, but from the animals that eat those plants.